one more example of the weirdness. I mean, these are all videos and tweets just from the past couple of days trying to like double down instead of saying, look, I know maybe we talk about these things, but that's a sidelight. No, they're doubling down, trying to explain why their weirdness is actually not weird. They're not embracing their weirdness. They're in total denial. And that's the weird part about them. They don't realize that normal people don't start like making essentialist arguments about women police conformity and men go outright. That's why it's weird to see a male politician say that something's weird. Are you kidding me? Who's ever had that thought? I mean, it's completely manufactured. Here's Daily Wire, one of the biggest conservative outlets, Andrew Klavan, who is trying to seriously discuss
the most normal man.
Yes, Kamala Harris. And here's this guy trying to show you he's not weird. The problem is women's brains just don't work properly. Go ahead.
Before Biden stepped down, one Quinnipiac poll showed that Trump had the support of just 36% of women. 58% of women were ready to vote for Joe Biden, a guy that anybody who was paying attention knew was too senile to be the president. So they were willing to vote for a senile goober over Trump. They just don't like this guy. Now, I don't believe in making great generalities about things like what they call totalizing principles. Like life is about this.
But I'm about to make a totalizing principle that encompasses everything.
A doozy of one.
In fact, I don't have to make any other totalizing principles because this one captures everything. Go.
So they were willing to vote for a senile goober over Trump. They just don't like this guy. Now, I don't believe in making great generalities about things like what they call totalizing principles, like life is about this or society is about this. But sometimes it's kind of like being the blind man with the elephant. You're only seeing one side of it. But sometimes that helps. Sometimes you're just taking a look at one side of things. And that's what I'm going to do now. There is a sense in which the central purpose of every society is to figure out the distribution of women because women are valuable. They're valuable not just for their company.
For a second. I mean, we don't have to listen to anything else of this. We will. Because it's hilarious. But he's just described the function of society is to commodify women. It is to distribute the distribution of women. Now, as you listen to this, I also want you to recall when Jordan Peterson went on Joe Rogan about 4 or 5 years ago and said there is a problem where you have some males who are dominating. They're getting all the ladies, and we should make sure that it's distributed equally. And Joe Rogan said, well, isn't that like socialism? Oh, well, okay, I need to think about that, I think is what he said. Well, Slavin, 4 years later, is going to make the exact same argument that, but really make it explicit. Women are commodities. That's why society's set up. Is there any non-right-wing, patriarchal, Christian fundamentalist, religious fundamentalist person who hears that and says, that's not weird?
By the way, can we end a little early today? I have to go to an appraisal appointment.
Go ahead. Oh, my God.
Sometimes you're just taking a look at one side of things, and that's what I'm going to do now. There is a sense in which the central purpose of every society is to figure out the distribution of women.
That's your sense.
Because women are valuable. They're valuable not just for their company and for their way of looking at things and for sex, which is a lot of fun, but also because they are the only path there is to continuing your genetic inheritance. That is the way it is.
More interesting to me than sex.
Now, pause there again. Like, I just want you to contemplate, like, who is he talking to? Who is the you? Who is the we? Women are commodities to him. The only conversation this guy's capable of having is with other men.
Yep.
We're talking, look, you and I, man to man to men, really probably boys. This is the conversation that we have about defining society. Women aren't even part of this conversation. Because if women were having a conversation, like, he would say, some of you are really a commodity and others aren't, because we're all in this together. I mean, this is so bizarre. And here's the other bizarre part. We're not at a bar.
No.
Sitting next to some dude who is ranting. These are self-conscious, completely aware political commentators who are trying to make an argument in public. It is weird to hold these beliefs. It is bat crap crazy to articulate them with no self-consciousness and awareness that other people are going to receive this as being very weird.
We talk about this within the context of why they don't see a problem with women having major health complications and needing abortions because those rape and incest exemptions for abortion bans are non-actionable. We've talked about this. It's because the natural extension of this thought about women only basically being vessels for the continuation of your biology is that if they fail in that endeavor, they are not really women, because what else are they good for? So that's why they want to ban abortion, to control that, because women are only good to reproduce your biological material. And if they fail at that, they probably should either have health complications, or if they die, God said they're not worthy of being the vessel.
Well, you didn't listen carefully enough, because he also said there was some value to women because they can be fun company and sex. Go ahead.
Gotcha.
And for their way of looking at things, and for sex, which is a lot of fun, but also because they are the only path there is to continuing your genetic inheritance. That is the way it is. When men want women on this kind of basic animalistic, just life level to reproduce, right? So the most obvious way to distribute women is to give all the women to the strongest man, right? So you get reproduced from the strongest person. That's the way many gorillas, silverbacks live. The one guy gets all
That's
the
a real
girls. And
thing.
the problem with that is it sounds like a good idea, but it's unstable, because obviously all the other guys finally think to themselves, oh, I know what we'll do. We'll get together and we'll kill the main guy, the alpha guy, and we'll steal the woman. And that's why those governments are unstable. That's how you get Magna Carta, where the
Can you
aristocrats...
pause it? Okay. So, okay, where does naturalism begin and where does it end? Where does it begin and where does it end? Because he's making a distinction. He's saying we have to draw a line here, because if we behave like gorillas in the animal world, then all the men would take all of the women that are high value, and then other men would kill the silverback for the other women. And it's like, okay, so you're acknowledging that is not a smart way to structure a society, in a way that men are hoarding women as chattel and taking all of the many wives, and then other men are going to kill that man for a said wife or whatever.
Which, by the way, is not happening. We don't have a patriarchal polygamy where men have multiple wives and
right. So he's drawn a line there, but then there's things about nature that you can't challenge. You can't challenge the fact that women are there to reproduce your biological material, and that naturally men have an animalistic urge to preside over them and to control them, and that's what their value is. So you just see the hypocrisy of these religious theocrats. It's not anything about the natural world or what God has created before them, because then they would be abiding by the most insane terms in the Bible about, like, oh, you should kill somebody if they spill their seed outside of a woman, or whatever the case may be.
Well,
or you can't eat shellfish. If that were the case, they would be abiding by the religious theocracy, as opposed to just like using it as a template to control and pretend this is the natural order.
There's a book by Christopher Ryan, Sex at Dawn, that goes into those nature metaphors, and it's very selective which animals we decide to model ourselves after. And I would just say silverback gorilla, a little bit specific. Maybe you could even look at other primates for different, more egalitarian ways that mating.
But the idea, I mean, he will just say, okay, I have reverse engineered this. So if he's saying that there is some society, presumably, that we have had where the strongest male would just take all the women. And I do not think that has been the case in our society.
and you see
But
what
he's
the
just
women
saying-
want.
he's saying-
It doesn't even matter.
he's
Like
saying
the women will automatically be taken.
He's saying physical strength, incidentally. Now,
Yeah.
the best part is he's using silverback gorillas because they're related to us, but he wants to make it clear because he's also a creationist, probably, that we did not in any way. There's no evolution. I'm not claiming that there's evolution. I'm just saying that we're like gorillas, and the strongest one would take it. And he literally means strongest because he delineates this later with intelligence. There's only two types of men. There's a really strong ones, and then there's the really intelligent ones, and then of course women have
mage and warrior.
Women just have essentially one attribute that your penis fits into them. Go ahead.
Oh God.
Well, you see this happening.
Oh no, go ahead.
That's the wrong one.
Obviously, all the other guys finally think to themselves, "Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll get together and we'll kill the main guy, the alpha guy, and we'll steal
That's
the
what it
woman."
means to
And
be a
that's why
mighty man of
those
valor.
governments are unstable. That's
Oh,
how you
pause
get
it for a second.
Magna
Now,
Carta.
I don't know what governments he's talking about. But
History lesson.
I've got news for you. Once you kill the strong guy, once you all get together to kill the strong guy because he's taking all the women, there's a new strong guy. Like, it's not like, oh, there's strong guy, and then there's all of the rest of us who are exactly the same
Democracy
strength.
guys.
Yeah. And that's that government. So all of a sudden we've gone from that's what's destabilized governments in the past is the strong king who sleeps with all the women.
Yeah, Bonaparte was.
Yeah, he sleeps with all the women, prima nocte, and no other nocte, and then everybody revolts because, hey, how come he's got all the ladies and we don't?
The women better
That's the
not
history.
unpack their suitcase because it seems like they're going to have to. Oh, geez, the new silverback came to town.
Exactly.
I
This is
got to
the
go
thing.
over
It's like,
there.
this is gorillas,
Cross to Oak Street.
and this is governments of humans, and somehow he just keeps going like this. Like they just keep cross-referencing each other. Go ahead.
Stable because obviously all the other guys finally think to themselves, "Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll get together and we'll kill the main guy, the alpha guy, and we'll steal the woman." And that's why those governments are unstable.
Well,
That's how you get Magna Carta, where the aristocrats, the most powerful people, go to the king and say, "We want power too." That is kind of the human way of acting out that guerrilla system.
Pause it for 1 second. Now, again, his whole point is that power equals capacity to control women. Now, I think there's probably other things that people were arguing about in terms of like why the king shouldn't have all the power.
And the lords had money as opposed to maybe
It
not
could be
just
money
being
and
brute
property
strength.
and whatnot.
Yeah.
But
There's
at the
some
end,
taxes,
it's all
issues.
about the ladies.
Yeah,
Go
I don't
ahead.
think it was like you're taking all you're taking all the
All the
women.
high value women.
King John.
Governments are unstable. That's how you get Magna Carta, where the aristocrats, the most powerful people, go to the king and say, "We want power too." That is kind of the human way of acting out that guerrilla system. Ultimately, other men want women.
Guerrilla
When you have a
system.
democracy, the best system is monogamy, right? One per customer. Everybody gets a woman. And it sounds like that means
Everybody
that
gets a
weak
woman.
people will be allowed to breed,
Yes,
but it
pause
turns
it.
out
all the people get a woman. You know, you should say like all the people get a woman. All the normal people get a woman, and that's why we do it. One per customer. You get men are the customers, and women are the thing that you pick up at the store.
But why is he so against free market principles? That's the odd thing that I'm like zeroing in on. What if you are a high value man that has the capacity to purchase
Well,
multiple
that's
women?
what Joe
Monopolies.
Rogan said to Peterson when he came on. Like,
But-
wait a second,
but
isn't that
he's the-
socialism?
He's the real free market fundamentalist here. I have to question Clavin and his commitment to, making sure that our economy is prosperous.
Women are a special commodity. Everybody knows this, except
No
for
2-for-1
except
deals.
for women.
Nationalize
No
women.
2-for-1 deals at the women's store. Okay, one purchase only.
want women. When you have a democracy, the best system is monogamy, right? One per customer. Everybody gets a woman. And it sounds like
Price
that
controls.
means that weak people will be allowed to breed, but it turns out it's actually a pretty good system because it favors diversity. Because a lot of times the smartest guy in the room and the strongest guy in the room are two entirely different people. So you want the strongest guy to reproduce, but you also want the smartest guy to reproduce, and that is how humanity
Pause it for a second.
advances.
Do you
In
really?
fact,
He's
monopoly-
literally doing it now. We want it. We want it to be the fairest for the people. He doesn't even recognize women as people in his little, I don't even know what this is, paradigm that he has.
It's a eugenicist paradigm. The way he's talking about reproducing certain kinds of people, or I should say, it's more natalist, which is a branch of that, which I've been trying to highlight on the show, and I think it's so obscure people don't really get it because it's weird. But JD Vance traffics in it, so does Elon Musk. This idea that like social reproduction of certain kinds of people, which ends up usually being white people, but for Elon, he feels he needs to spread his DNA throughout the world because of his intelligence, and that's going to be, they justify it with their God complex about how it's going to help the human race. And the point is that that's weird. People don't want to talk about natalism or like who the most high value woman is, and if this Republican politician or commentator is going to get in between you and your doctor or inspect your kid's genitals or her teammates on the volleyball team or whatever. That's why this is such an effective attack, is because it just shows how small their vision of the world is. I mean, you could just see it through a pinhole, and everybody else is going to be dominated if they're not in a part of that vision. So that's why it's an effective attack, because when you can laugh at these guys, then you can both fight them and not take them seriously well, you should take them seriously, but not take these ideas seriously.
Somebody said on the I Am Roger, this sounds like DEI for incels. Go ahead.
It does.
The smartest guy in the room and the strongest guy in the room are two entirely different people. So you want the strongest guy to reproduce, but you also want the smartest guy to reproduce, and that is how humanity advances. In fact, monogamy, one per customer, is a really good basis for a society. However, it goes against the gorilla code. And the gorilla code is written into our DNA. We're somehow related. I'm not saying we evolved from gorillas, but we're related to them. We're not that far away from them. The men want lots of women, so the strongest man wants all the women, and the women want the strongest man. That is the way evolution has designed us. So the strong have to take back the women.
The reason this gets unanimous consent at Daily Wire is there's not a single one of these guys getting laid there. So they're all these,
Well, the problem is we're all the smart people. We're all the smart men, and all the strong men are getting
Exactly.
all the ladies. That's the
It's
problem.
always The
That's
Rock.
always been the problem. It is, yes. The Rock is getting it. Women really like a cowboy type of figure, like a Marlboro Man or a strong guy like Joe Rogan. And so
Travis Kelce.
we get screwed because we're really smart. Anyways, here's my theory. Go ahead.
And they want to take back the women from a system that is free. A system that is free is going to be a monogamous system. That's the way that works because it is the best system for freedom. It means everybody gets something, right?
Pause it.
All the women get a man.
Now, freedom means that women must stay with their man that has chosen them. That's what freedom is. Because women are different than people. They're the commodity that serves people, and therefore there's no such thing as freedom for a commodity.
Well, my idea of freedom is a little...
Oh, look who's talking again.
Oh, sorry.
All right, go, keep playing.
The women. They want to take back the women from a system that is free. A system that is free is going to be a monogamous system. That's the way that works because it is the best system for freedom. It means everybody gets something, right? All the women get a man, all the men get a woman.
With money.
Yeah, as close as we can come to that. The strong want to take women back, and they have to do it because it's a free system. They can't do it by force. They might want to, but they can't. They have to do it by lies. And there are two big lies they want to tell them. One is your husband is a no-goodnik. He's a pain in the ass and he's bossing you around. That's the first lie. And that lie is probably not a lie. It's probably true on some days at least. But the big lie that the government wants to tell you, that the people who want the power concentrated all in one place to get all the women, they want to tell you is that women can take care of themselves. And women hate the idea that they can't take care of themselves, but women cannot take care of themselves. They're smaller, weaker. Men are stronger. Men are mean. They're more aggressive. They will take them over. They'll do it anytime they can, anywhere they can. They will abuse them. They will hurt them. Women have to come up with different strategies for survival than men do, right? Men buff up. They get tough. They study karate. They learn how to fight. Women can do all those things, and there still is going to be a man that can take them down. Women have to find different ways of being safe, and one of those ways is finding a man to protect them.
Yeah, so it is really amazing. They also have this incredibly insecure self-conception about how their masculinity should be defined in relation to women, which is as the protector, right? They feel that this was why that I returned to this because it was a bizarre moment for me to have that clip of me blow up talking about that subway incident where I had kind of to contrast about the Jordan Neely killing and saying I had somebody who hit into me while they were having an incident and I wouldn't have wanted them killed or detained by somebody. I just moved away. And Ben Shapiro played that on his show. And I wondered why that bothered people so much. But it really is this idea that like a lot of these men have, because the conservatism is so weird and focused on structuring gender roles in this completely suffocating way, they define their masculinity as basically a white knight to save certain kinds of women from certain kinds of other men. And so when they talk about these things in animalistic terms or in the natural order of the natural world, it also makes it quite easy for them to divide people up by race and gender and into almost tribal fiefdoms where their side is the one that wants to dominate and win, as opposed to just like creating a society where all people can have prosperity and be comfortable.
I think the liberals
Well,
all the women.
you're not including the fact that it means that you're capable of leaving your man, which is inappropriate, and that is one of the problems.
Isn't the best system for freedom isn't the one where you can decide if you want to be monogamous or polygamous or whatever? Isn't that the best for freedom?
Well, but if we have polygamy, or if we have people who are polyamorous, or people decide they don't want to stay with one person, then what will happen is all the strong men will overthrow the other strong man, and then we'll have a destabilized society.
Incidentally, like both genders are having like loneliness and connection issues, and it's funny how differently they get interpreted. When it's women, it's like you made the wrong choices. You decided to go for a career.
His whole rant was completely directed at men, as if like we're the only ones who talk about society. Women are just commodities. I mean, he literally says, he opens it up with the commodities. Now, here's the bottom line. We could probably talk about this clip for hours. We could probably give it to academics.
It's 1:40 and it's still the first half of the show.
Exactly. We could give it to academics who would study it for days and months and weeks. But the bottom line is, the too long don't read version of this, it is super effing weird. Like it's creepy. Yep. It's creepy and it's weird, and not in a good way. Mm-hmm. There's no like celebrating my differences and this and that. No, it's just weird because the dude has no idea how this hits the ears of the vast majority of people.
Let alone women. Like, okay, so I saw a clip this morning, Kamala Harris talking about her mother and getting choked up about her mother's passing, right? And I saw another version of her explanation for her laugh where she spoke about how she has a hearty laugh because her idea of being a woman is sitting around the kitchen table with her women and with her mom and her aunt and telling stories and having hearty laughs and having a cup of tea, which, like, who knows if that's true, right? But it's a politician. But that's the kind of thing where, like, I hear that and I feel, okay, I can connect with that, right? Like, that's just speaking to women's humanity and their shared experiences and their passing down traditions from their mother and things like that. That kind of politics, I know it maybe doesn't appeal more broadly, but if they're trying to drive up the female vote, it's just normal and relatable. It's just everybody can be like, okay, I've had that with a female relative, that kind of connection as a woman. What he's talking about here, the more that they focus on this and the weird little men trying to get in women's business, the more human the Democratic ticket looks, the more human their proposals look, especially if we have walls out there talking about things like free school lunches, and Democrats center their platform on childcare, which I think is going to be the case, and the child tax credit. Those are the kinds of things that, like, give a feeling of warmth and humanity to a campaign that I haven't seen in quite some time. That is a really stark contrast to the clawing desperation of Trump to stay out of prison, and then J.D. Vance echoing this creepiness.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.